Hi, wanted to do a quick video today just to give us a little reminder really of everything that's unfolding. As most of you know that follow me either on my Telegram channel or my new Instagram page, I've not really been on social media much just because the energies are just not worth playing into. And I wanted to just give us a little reminder really of where we're putting our focus and attention to. I've noticed very, very significantly that even this so-called discovery or truth community, or whatever you want to call it, is just as bad as the mainstream media. There's so many stories and rabbit holes that we can go down, and they kind of achieve the same desired effect as what the mainstream media is aimed to be, so I wanted to kind of just touch on it really. And I noticed it quite a lot in the truth community. I've come out of a few groups because of it. Nothing personal, just I'm becoming very conscious of my energy and where that focus and attention is going. We are literally fighting an actual spiritual war on a scale that we don't even comprehend or recognise as much as we should. All the war focus in Ukraine is just a massive distraction. Now, a lot of you know that I'm big into astrology and a lot of the ancient astrology focus, not this stuff that's been twisted with the tropical version. I look at all of the ancient stuff and then into it, and I've made some key predictions, and I will be doing another podcast, if not video. And I say podcast because my last video got removed. I wonder why. It's astrology, it's predictions. But the astrologer that I learnt off quite a lot during 2020, he actually died, and he was living in Serbia, and he was making some really, really key predictions. So I'm mindful of that as well myself. But I am going to do another one because we need to really, really focus where our energy is going. There's so many programs on at the moment. Ragnarok, some of the films that are coming out. A lot of it is really dark energy. And you might be someone that considers yourself as awake, whatever term you want to refer to, but we really do have to be aware of that fine-tuning fork of where our energy is. We're all seeking truth, we all want to know truth, and I'm not dismissing that some of these things that have been put out on YouTube, etc., aren't bringing some sort of truth, but if they get you into a really low vibration and negative energy, that is what you're putting out in collective consciousness. And that isn't going to empower anyone in any of these really difficult situations. And that was something else I wanted to touch on as well. I'm going to share a pentagram picture of Syria. And I mentioned Syria for a reason, because at the moment all we're hearing is Ukraine, Russia, big bad Russia. And I did mention in my last prediction that we would see more coming from India, Africa specifically. There was going to be a kick-off at some point where Iran start trying to infiltrate Israel again. And that whole area is significant, and I found it really odd that they wanted to have a peace talk meeting in Jerusalem, of all places. And I've always wondered, why? Why is there always such conflict in that area? What is the significance? And when I come across this pentagram, and bringing in the awareness and knowledge of astrology, astrology is the matrix. They've demonized it as well because of the misuse of it in past histories like Babylonian. This big thing in the truth community about Babylonian, it's a bad time and whatnot. There's always dark and light in any age, any era, any civilization cycle. But we really need to understand, and this is why I've made astrology my focus, because we have inner planets. It's about aligning our inner planets to these frequencies that come in. And the more I share my predictions, the more you'll see what I'm getting at and my point about it. Because how can that energy actually have an influence if it isn't part of the matrix that connects to us as well? So the conflict that's been in Syria for the last 11 years. Now, who came into power at that time? I'll let you do some digging on that if you want to understand it fully. But that whole area is being kept in such a deep, dark state of affairs for a reason. And our grid, our astrological grid, connects to the ley lines as well. You know, we've all looked at the ley lines. I think there's a group looking at lines of destiny. But this pentagram shows the key ley lines in that area. So now we understand that construct and the negative energy that's been put out on that grid. That's what's just rippling out to all of us. So not only are they doing it through mainstream media, they're doing it through the ley lines as well. And we need to be really conscious that not only could detach us from our spiritual being and experience in this physical reality. You know, we chose to come here. You know, this 5D, you know, I'll go to the 5D. If we're in the 5D, we're dead. You know, let's just get that clear. And just to touch on it briefly, because I don't want to cover it too much in depth, I want to keep this video short as possible. Pluto's done its return, and if you look at some of the ancient stories about Pluto, and I know some people have been speaking about Pluto's return, and it's America's return of Pluto. There's deeper meaning to that, you know, and some of these ancient stories explain about dark spirits on Pluto, and it only comes around every so often. So Pluto's come round. It always ties in with the total lunar eclipse, not the partial. You know, they give us an insight of what energies are going to happen either side. But we're going to be having 6 blood moons in a row. The second one was the 19th of November. The second was 19th of November. The third one's going to be on the 16th of May. And that's going to set the stage. That's entry point of these spirits. So this whole narrative, and if you look back in any Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto conjunction, there's been war, there's been pandemics, there's been DNA manipulating technology, let's just use that word. And it's all to detach us. It's to detach our soul that's in this physical body. And there's loads of movies out there about body snatching and that kind of thing. That's literally what it is. Literally what it is. So, entry point, 15th of May, 16th of May. Well, it's energies either side. Russia is protecting the north for a reason. And if you think about the Gulf Stream and how that operates, it flows, doesn't it? It flows down. So it would be easy to come in through the northern entry. And both these eclipses May, and then the fourth, so the fourth one, is going to be in November, and they're both in the sign, so the May and the November one are both in the sign of Scorpio. So with Taurus energies as well, there's other energies around them. So that's going to be the time that they're going to try and escape. It's not the Great Reset, it's the Great Escape, because we are winning this spiritual war. And I've heard it the other day actually from someone I didn't expect it, that there's no way of us winning this. If we believe that, we're not going to win it. You know, we are here for that reason, to contribute to this spiritual war. We have a choice. Which energy and which side are we choosing? Now, I'm not talking about, oh, let's just sit back, meditate, it'll all fall into our laps. It's about taking that inspired led action. but we've got to get attuned to then take the inspired led action. And if we're just looking at dark stuff that's been done, that's been there from the very beginning, that's where we're going to stay stuck. It's like putting out a wish to the universe that I don't want to not be prosperous, just use it as an example. That I don't want is still focusing on, you know, that it's something I'm already experiencing. You know, say if you're talking about love, you know, you would like to be in a loving relationship. Instead of putting that out to the universe, or I want to be in a loving relationship, you are in a loving relationship. You are love. We are all love. Love's within us. And it's when we're in that frequency that it comes. At the right time, how it's meant to. So we really do have to fine tune what we say to ourselves, what energy we feel. Because even if we're saying the right words, but not being and feeling in alignment with what we don't want in our reality, it's still sending out the wrong signal. So that's just a bit of a reminder of how aware we have to be. And there is going to be more unfolding in Syria. You watch. You'll have to search the news for it, because they probably won't put it on mainstream straight away. There's already been an accidental rocket launched from India to Pakistan, which is a bit random. So again, you know, the predictions I made are already starting to unfold. I found something where it was saying that Russia's now putting protective presence in Africa. It's not in mainstream media. And both these eclipses are over Europe, the northern hemisphere, and then the southern hemisphere, which is Antarctica. And now we're getting an understanding of where they're coming in and where they're aiming to go. When I do my next prediction, I'll focus on all the key dates and the other energies with other planets that are around that time of what's going to unfold. And already the May, so if these spirits are entering in May, on the May eclipse, they're going to want us in such a fear state. They're going to want us in a really low frequency. So you can predict that we're going to see the financial crash. The partial lunar on the 30th of April, I said, was key in my last podcast. Well, it was actually a video, but we converted it to a podcast just to get it out there. So there's going to be that. We're seeing the war aspect ramping up. Even a comet, I think, was referenced in the mainstream media. They are literally going to throw everything as a virus. I mentioned Tricky and myself, actually, we predicted this back in January. And we tried to really push awareness on it in whatever community we could. Because the more that we're aware of what they're intending on doing, then, you know, if we're caught off by surprise or we're not seeing it, then it allows, it's like an indirect consent. That's why it's so important where we put our energy to. But we was predicting about Ebola Marburg, and I noticed that China have announced a city of 17 million, I think, that are supposedly really ill again with COVID. So we can see that narrative starting to play out as well. They're literally going to throw everything at us to get us in that negative state, because if we're in a low vibration and we're not connected, then the body snatching can happen, whether we've had the or not. You know, so really got to be mindful. And all these stories and narratives and rabbit holes on YouTube, all these people speaking out, look at what you're focusing on. What change is it bringing? It's not bringing anything. It's just bringing, oh, I'm now aware of a really, really demonic reality. You're going to leave it there and let that demonic reality manifest, because that's where our energy is going if we keep focusing on it. So I just wanted to give us a quick reminder. And anything that we see, just put out that big positive energy. Pam Gregory, I like Pam Gregory. She talks a lot about putting out the positive energy into those areas of suffering, because we might not be able to be there physically fighting, but you would make such a huge difference in the collective consciousness and the empowerment of those people. You know, obviously the people in Ukraine, because there are people suffering. But they've used hybridization. This hybridization's been happening for quite some time. Not just now, for quite some time. Because for this body snatching to happen, certain genes, certain blood types, you know, all those kind of aspects, they've been manipulating this on a scale that we couldn't even comprehend. But I don't want to give it too much of our attention. I'm just trying to explain a little bit of awareness to it, so that, you know, we stay centered. So yeah, every day I take that time to really get in that positive energy and put it out to those key places, because if they're using our grid, our matrix, to put out that energy, we need to counteract it. So it's all well and good in focusing on what is they're doing, what they've always done, or what they've not done. We've got to understand how the matrix works, and that includes the astrology. It is the astrology. And Sirius, Syria, there's some key constellations that link in there, but I want to do that in a separate chat. And there are stars culminating, and as I've explained before, as these stars culminate, they empower the energy point on our matrix grid. And there's going to be some events with that as well, so it's a desperation window of theirs. So the more that we're aware of it and the more we see it, we can not empower it and come together. So I hope this has helped. I'm sat in my summer house, so apologies if you heard a few vehicles going by and a few birds tweeting. I will check in again soon. Lots of love and light.